Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm gonna tell you about my biggest plant fails. I'm kind of worried to talk to you about this because I know that there's gonna be people who are going to be mean in the comments. I just know that it's a part of this video. I guess we'll just get into it. But before we do, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. Maybe you've been binge watching my videos and you just forgot to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the community. I also have YouTube channel memberships, which you can check out at the link in the description. Additionally, I have started streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/PlanTEA. Come hang out. I think it's a super fun time. Let's get into my biggest plant fails. So the one that always comes to mind whenever people ask me about mistakes I've made as a plant parent is my very first Monstera albo that I ever got. I was volunteering at the greenhouse for my local college. They had this massive, beautiful Monstera albo. Structure was set to be voted on for it to be demolished with all the plants and everything, and the school wanted to get rid of the greenhouse. And I was like, why? They were like, well, it's too messy, it's become a chore, there's pests all over. Like, you guys, there was scale and thrip and things like you wouldn't believe. And it was just awful. And they just wanted to get rid of it because it was too much of a burden. The director for the program that ran the greenhouse literally told me it was like they flip a coin and then whoever gets the short side of it has to go water the plants. So like, people didn't care about it. And I was like, well, I'll fix it. Like, I'll fix the greenhouse. And I didn't even really understand what I was like fully taking on at the time. It was wild. Months and months and months and months of fun. I had fun. I mean, it was gross. There was literally like adult mealybugs on the windows. Like, it was so gross. After working and making a dent in it, the director started bringing in other people to help. And then it became this whole collaborative effort. And then the school decided to keep the greenhouse for a little while longer. And they cleaned the windows and the windows got cleaned. And it was like this whole thing, right? During the time that I was doing all this, I was doing a 24 credit summer semester. It started in the spring and then it continued in the summer. They gave it to me as a gift for taking care of the greenhouse, which was so beyond exciting. I remember like showing up and like picking it up, and I made like a whole video on it. You can actually like go find it. Very old on my channel, 2 years old. It's 2019 that this happened. I had the plant in my care for a couple months, and then I noticed it just started declining, and I couldn't understand why until it started to show severe signs of root rot. And at that point, it was too late. I cut up the plant and I tried to save it, but I just couldn't. I absolutely couldn't do anything because it was just too late. Like, the stems had shriveled up and I was a new plant parent. I didn't know what I was doing. And for me, this was really, really horrible because this was a plant that was in this greenhouse for who knows how long. They had no idea what it was, by the way. They literally did, I named most of the plants that were in the greenhouse because they like didn't even know what they were. And they had no idea that this was like a Monstera albo. And it didn't say that on its pot. So it was just like this crazy thing that we like walked in there and there's just like this albo. And it wasn't that big when I took it home. We took a lot of cuttings for the greenhouse to like keep and sell so that we could like raise money for the greenhouse and stuff. And then eventually my hands had to be taken off of it because I was focusing on my senior year. It was also my junior year, and my first semester of my junior year was a 28 credit semester that I had to petition the council to let me do. The greenhouse was the only thing I was doing that I couldn't continue to maintain. So I had to step away from the process, and since then there's been some wonderful people like taking care of it. Because there was no albo in the greenhouse anymore, I came to feel some pretty immense guilt. And albos aren't rare. They're literally everywhere. Most people probably have one. I know that I'm gonna get a comment being like, wow, Ashley, I can't believe you would say that like they're not rare. And they're not. They're not rare, but they fit into the rare plant genre. Like, that's a genre of something. It's higher up, it's more expensive, basically. It's just an expensiver plant, and so therefore it's rare, right? That's basically all rare plants are, is unattainable, expensive plants. At the time, I just felt so guilty because I took this really cool plant out of the greenhouse and then killed it. And even though it was a gift for all my hard work, it was just really, really awful, honestly, to think that like, if I just had never been there, well, that's the hard thing, because if I had never gone, they would have demolished it most likely. And that's what a student told me later, which I'll get to in a second. It's good that I went, but I just should have just left the plants where they were. And I just didn't get it at the time because I was literally a brand new plant parent. Like, I fell in love with plants and then a month later, I discovered this beautiful elbow thing, and I wanted to take care of the greenhouse it was in so I could be around it. And then them giving me the plant at the end, it was just so exciting, and it was a whirlwind, and I just didn't have the hindsight that I have now, and I should have just left it there. And to this day, it's one of my biggest regrets. And then I killed it. And I wish that I kept some of the cuttings that I got to take before they gave me the plant. I either like did giveaways with them to try to spread the love of the elbows, because I got to have one, and at the time that I got an elbow, they were extremely inaccessible. Like, you could not find them even in stores. It's unheard of. I wanted to I gave some to my friends for free. I gave a couple to people online for free, like not even as a giveaway format, just like, hey, have one. I was just so lucky. And then we took a bunch of cuttings for the greenhouse to sell, which I don't know what they did with that because I left before they did their spring sale. It just sucks. And so a couple months ago, maybe, no, it was a long time ago now. Gosh, maybe like 8 or 9 months ago, I had an elbow that I was just like looking at it, and I was like, I just felt so bad. Like, I just felt awful. And my fail for the story, just so you know, is the fact that I killed it. Took that plant and a couple other different specimens I had that I thought were cool. Can't remember what they were right now. And I took them to the greenhouse. I didn't film it. Didn't tell anyone that I did that because I didn't want people to go take it because I don't want people to be a new plant parent and then be all excited about it, see or know that something's there, and then like just take it for themselves because they're also a new plant parent and don't have hindsight yet. So I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, and I just went and I did it. And I talked to the owners again. I hadn't seen them in 2.5 years at this point, because again, it had been a really long time. Like, I did this year, this early spring. And I got to meet a really cool person there who was taking care of the plants. And I said, hey, like, I'd like to donate these for you to grow here. And it was my elbow and then 2 other cool plants. I think one of them was one of my variegated peace lilies. And then there was another plant. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. But I brought 3 really special plants I thought that they could grow in the greenhouse. That could be special for the students who care about horticulture who work there. And then literally 2 weeks ago, I was babysitting for my hairstylist. Her husband happens to own a local business, and one of his employees was a younger guy who was a student, 21, worked. It just came up in conversation that I like plants. He looked at my Instagram. He's like, oh, I actually follow you. Cannot believe I didn't recognize you, because it was that day I dyed my hair red. So I didn't have the blonde hair anymore, right? So I literally had just dyed my hair an hour before showing up to go babysit. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't recognize you. And he was like, yeah, it's actually crazy. Like, I work at this greenhouse at a local college here, and it's just so cool. Like, an elbow just showed up there like a couple months ago. And I was like, oh, was it XYZ college? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I put that there. And he was like, you're joking. And I was like, no, I put it there because I took the one out of the greenhouse that was there before. And I've just felt so guilty and awful that I did that. Even though it was a gift, even though like I couldn't have known and I didn't technically do anything wrong because they gave me the plant, I feel guilty. And it's something I wanted to clear from my conscience, right? He was like, wait, they told us about someone who volunteered at the greenhouse for summer and like cleaned it all up so that the school didn't demolish it. And I was like, yeah, that was me. And he was like, you're joking. And I was like, no, that's something that I did for fun. I just couldn't imagine like a resource like that just being taken down, especially the greenhouse at that specific college is very old. So it's just, I just couldn't imagine. I don't know, I'm a history person and historic buildings and stuff, so anyways. So that was like a cool wrap. I was really worried I was gonna take the plant there and it would just like, someone would propagate it or cut it, and I made sure that the students there knew that if it was okay with the staff, you know, the 2 directors who run the program, that they could take cuttings of it at some point, because my whole goal is to like spread the plant around. Like, that was always the whole purpose, and like that's why we took cuttings at the school anyways, to give students a chance to like buy a very inexpensive version of this plant, right? I don't know, but that was one of my biggest plant fails. And then early big victory, because he told me, I asked him how the elbow had been doing because I was really concerned, because I really wanted it to thrive there, and I had plans to take other very cool specimens to that greenhouse as well in the future, hopefully within the next year or two. I just have to grow some things out first. And he said it's doing very well. It's getting very large, and they actually just had to repot it. And it just made my heart so happy. So even though it was like a really big plant fail, like initially, and like the plant died, and I just feel like I did something wrong. I took something from somewhere where it shouldn't have been, and then it didn't live. And sometimes I think as plant people, we have to understand that things do really well in certain places, and we should just admire where they are, where they're at, without needing to take it into our homes. There's this thing with collecting where we just feel like, oh, that's pretty, I need it in my house. It's like sometimes it's just good to appreciate it where it is. And that's like been the biggest thing that I learned. And knowing that like I put a plant back in there that is just doing so well. They haven't propagated it. They just repotted it. According to them, it has like 3 or 4 leaves. At least the last time I talked with this person, which was like 2 weeks ago. It's just like a huge cathartic end to it because I just felt so guilty because I never ever want to do something like that. So that was my biggest plant fail by far. I have some smaller ones, but whenever people ask me, like, that's what feels like my biggest plant fail was like removing this plant from this greenhouse and then subsequently killing it because I was inexperienced. But I'm just really glad that there's now another plant there, plus other ones, and I'm gonna donate more in the future because I just think it's really cool that like these students, I mean, I would just die to see some of the plants that are in there right now that aren't even that cool, but they're cool. Like, I think they're cool. But I don't know, it's just really cool to think that like other students who are in the plant community will come up, get to do that little program, and then they go into the greenhouse and there's like these really cool plants that they've only seen on Instagram or something. I don't know. I think it's cool, but let's talk about the next biggest plant fail. Okay, so this next big plant fail that I had was due to negligence of my own part, so let's just get into it. So my very first Monstera that I ever got, I got as a cutting from Edward's greenhouse, which is a local greenhouse here in Boise, Idaho. I got it, here's a photo of me with it. So cute, I was so excited. I continued to have this plant for the next 2.25 years. I think until early this last spring 2021. It did really great. It got huge. I put it up behind my desk. It was this big, beautiful, like 8-leafed plant. I never really took photos of it because it was just a normal Monstera. I did acquire this one, which has also grown to get pretty darn large. It was this big, beautiful Monstera that I had. I rooted it. It was my first experience propagating anything. It was just really good, and it was my first Monstera ever. I didn't like Monstera originally, and I didn't think that they were that cool. This plant to me was just really special because it was a plant that I didn't like and then did like, and then a nursery was kind enough to cut a large cutting from one of their very large plants for me, and they charged me $2 for it. 2 years ago, right? Because of where I put it, which if my desk is like in the corner, right? So if there's the corner of my room, how do I make a corner? If there's a corner of my room, my desk is here, the plant is here, up high on a pedestal over my desk. So the leaves are over me, right? And I had a thrips outbreak, and I didn't check this plant because I was like, oh, there's no way thrips got up there. It's probably fine. I was moving a couple things around. I noticed, you guys, it was so disgusting. It was the most disgusting thing I actually think I've ever seen. I couldn't even move the Monstera without the thrips literally like falling off the plant. Beyond saving. Like, there was nothing to do but as carefully as possible take it outside. But before I took it outside, I realized there's no way for me to do this without the thrips shaking and falling everywhere. It was literally like the plant was a goner, and it was kind of like looking yellow, but I thought maybe it was just like lack of light because it was in a corner. And I just was so stupid to not like stop and think like, okay, we had a pretty recent thrips, you know, situation a couple months ago. I try not to, but I do develop sentimental attachments to specific plants. There are certain plants I don't like my burley mercs that I have, that I still have because it's one of the first plants I ever got. And I had to cut up this massive Monstera I had grown in, and it was just honestly devastating. The final big one was Fred. This is Fred. I shouldn't have been keeping it where I was keeping it. It's my absolutely bonkersly large alocasia frydek that I grew in. I had him for just under 2 years. He met his end at the place we lived before this one, at 2 places ago. So right before we moved out of the apartment into the townhome, that was when Fred was unfortunately accidentally murdered. I had a friend, we had been drinking, and I was keeping Fred on top of one of my very tall ladder shelves. He was very precariously positioned. So like if this is the bottom of the pot, which it was bigger, it was a huge pot, probably only this much of the pot was actually on the shelf. But he was kind of like leaning up against it, and it was fine. Like again, like if no one bumped into the shelf or anything, it'd be fine. The pot itself also weighed a lot. It was probably a 15-pound pot. I mean, the thing was huge. Fred was huge. Also had just been watered, so there's a lot of extra weight in the pot. What happened was my friend and I came home from a night of drinking, and they had had too much to drink to the point where they were not well. And I was trying to care for them, but they accidentally fell over and bumped into the shelf. My biggest concern immediately was making sure, because I mean, everything happened in freeze frames. Person bumped into the shelf. I saw the massive heavy weight about to fall on top of my friend, and I made my best effort to knock it as it was falling away from my friend. I mean, falling from the top of a shelf is like crazy town. For that heavy of a weight, and my friend who was laying on the ground because they had just fallen over, and of course they were laughing. It was awful. It was such a narrow miss. The pot almost landed on them, and it was like the most scary moment of my life. Genuinely, it was horrifying. I succeeded. The pot did not fall on my friend, and I shouldn't have been keeping it there in the first place. Like, that was my fail. Like, keeping a very heavy plant on a very narrow shelf high up off the ground. Not smart, guys. Very happy ending that it didn't land on my drunken friend. Why was I freaking keeping it there? It's a freaking safety hazard, apparently. And also, it fell completely on top of itself. It turned upside down, and like the big part of the pot where the plant is, I mean, Fred's large, it literally smushed the whole plant, you guys. It was so tragic, and my friend instantly started crying because they knew what plant that was, and I was like, no, like, I don't give a shit. I literally just wanted, like, I did not want it to fall on you. Like, the only thing I care about in this moment is that that did not fall on you. And it was just awful because my poor friend still feels bad about it to this day. But all I care about was that holy crap, that did not fall on her. It was so scary. So don't keep heavy plants in high places, you guys. Please don't. I think what we've learned is leave plants where they're at, don't disturb them, and just let them grow in their own happiness somewhere. I can't remember what the second one was. What freaking story did I tell? Check your plants for pests, and don't keep heavy plants in high places. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. These are some pretty real stories from my plant life. I haven't really shared because they're honestly just embarrassing, but I thought, you know what, like, these are normal, probably things that happen to people in the plant world. So like, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about our mistakes. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure you give a like, subscribe, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Please don't be too mean to me in the comment section. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch at PlantMeAshley. I'm about to go live actually right after filming this video. Don't forget to join the YouTube channel memberships. They're only $5 a month. I really enjoy them, and like getting to talk to you guys on Discord is so fun. And other than that, let's get to the end of the video fun stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section. Goodbye. Hello and welcome to the end of the video fun stuff. I would like to thank Liliana Ramos, Kim Klanowski, Ashley's Planties, Cole M, Houseplant Heather, All the Green Places, and Botanicas for the extra and continued channel support. And today's extra special comment shout out goes to Shannon Carr, who says, always looks stunning even when it's sad. Oh, that's so sweet of you to say about me. That's hilarious. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next houseplant section. Goodbye.